I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHack's Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is the two relationships. Once you understand this concept, you'll have a much easier time navigating intersexual relationships. Fail to understand it or insist that it should be otherwise, and you'll wind up feeling bewildered, frustrated, and disappointed. It kind of goes like this. Every relationship is actually two relationships. That is, the relationship actually exists on two different levels simultaneously. Once you perceive these two levels and understand the differences between them, you'll be able to get more of what you want more easily from others. So, what are these two levels? The first we can call the level of the label. This has to do with the explicitly negotiated structure of a relationship. And as we'll see, this is the more superficial level of the two. For example, when people say, "This is my boyfriend," or "This is my wife," they're actually abiding at the level of the label. This is the relationship the individuals have consciously decided to enter into. And it's upheld by rules and contracts and boundaries and things like that. Now, the important thing to appreciate here is that there is nothing emotional about the structure of a relationship. This is the level of negotiated self-interest, of privileges and responsibilities, of roles and expectations. This is what you get after you sign the contract or define the relationship. However, there's another level to every relationship. It's actually a deeper level, a more vital level. It's also a more chaotic and uncertain level, which is why so many people prefer to reside at the level of the label and to use that as a proxy for the deeper relationship. We can call this second level the level of the bond, or the felt connection to another person. As cannot be repeated enough, these two things are not the same. Millions of people are married to those they don't really feel much for, and millions more feel a lot for people they're not married to. Do you understand? Of course, ideally, you have both at more or less equal intensity. You have a vital emotional connection with another human being that is like protected and supported by the structure and boundaries of the relationship. Or, on the other hand, you have a non-existent relationship with someone you feel nothing for. In both cases, the structure of the relationship is elaborated to match the intensity of the bond. However, life is far from ideal. In my experience, it's far more common for these two levels to be out of balance in any given relationship. There are a lot of people walking around today who believe that just because they have a girlfriend or a husband, that is, just because they have a relationship with a label, that they are naturally and perpetually entitled to all the benefits and privileges that come with the emotional connection. This is not true. For better or worse, for example, you do not need to love your spouse to get married. You don't. It happens every day. But you do have to sign the marriage license to get married. The problems arise when people expect that having signed the marriage license, that they are now entitled to love, or conversely, that having loved, that they are now entitled to the marriage license. Two very different things. When the commitment serves as a proxy for the bond, then the felt connection suffocates and dies. And this will either cause your relationship to fall apart or, even worse, to become your prison. The joyless dischargement of duty for which death is the only release. The reason why this doesn't work, as I've said, is that every relationship is actually two relationships. Entering into the one entitles you to the other about as much as entering into a professional relationship with a business partner entitles you to a new best friend. If the two coincide, it's more of a fortunate accident than a foregone conclusion. As a result, it's much safer to consider the two as they exist in reality, functionally independent of each other. If you appreciate the insights on this channel, I would highly encourage you to get your hands on a copy of my book, The Value of Others. Over the course of 432 pages, I delve deep into my economic model of relationships and explain the behavior of both men and women in the game of mating and dating. I also provide a lot of actionable advice on how to get and keep more of what you want in the sexual marketplace. Once you read The Value of Others, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Now available in ebook, audiobook, and paperback formats. The links are in the description. Again, ideally you have both levels in equal proportion. However, if you had to prioritize one level over another, as is often the case in real-world relationships, it's a much better idea to prioritize the felt emotional connection with another person and to forego the label. Why? Because it's feeling that motivates action. People will do all kinds of things and make all kinds of sacrifices for the people they love, irrespective of whether those actions are reciprocated, irrespective of whether they're even in a relationship with the person in question. If a man runs into a burning building to save his wife, it's because he loves her, and she just happens to be his wife. It's not the duty of the label that motivates action. He would do the same if he loved her and he wasn't married to her. Hell, she could even be married to someone else, and he'll still do it. That's the power of love. By the same token, a woman is much more likely to stay loyal to the man she loves, whether or not that's her husband. This is because, as I discuss in my book, things like loyalty and love are non-transactable goods. They cannot be bought or earned, and they laugh in the face of boundaries and restrictions. This is why they have nothing to do with the label. They have no place in the explicitly negotiated dimension of the relationship. If you want things like love and loyalty and dedication and enthusiasm, then you will get more of what you want by prioritizing the level of the bond in any given relationship. So why don't more people do so? Because the felt emotional connection is unstable. It's like the weather, always changing, always fluctuating. Unlike a commitment, which can be made once and for all, it never doesn't require effort and attention. So it can be expensive and exhausting to monitor and maintain over time. As a result, as a relationship progresses, people tend to lean more and more on the structure. You can kind of think of it as a cost-saving heuristic. It requires much less time and effort and attention to preserve a structure than to nurture a living, changing bond. However, one of the liabilities of the overuse of this heuristic is that people end up policing their boundaries at the expense of cultivating the connection. Husbands shouldn't do that. This is how a girlfriend should act. Do you understand? On the other hand, if these people were to prioritize the felt emotional connection, if their husbands and girlfriends felt a lot of love for them, then they probably wouldn't need to lecture their partners with respect to what they should or should not be doing. In so doing, they turn into parents or detectives or wardens, and they often feel hurt and betrayed when their partners, often eventually, decide to follow their emotions right out of that relationship in spite of their explicit agreements. Those who don't want to put in the effort to kindle and maintain that emotional connection often lose by getting what they want, the label. Consider the extreme example: an absence of emotion, but complete obedience to the structure of the relationship. This is a robot, like a drone discharging a joyless obligation. Who could possibly be happy about having a partner like that? Like even the Stepford wives needed to be programmed to convey emotion. You know what I'm saying? Believing that a relationship on one level entitles you to a relationship on the other is actually an abnegation of responsibility. On the other hand, those who attend to that emotional dimension generally don't have to worry about the label. This is because people are going to be loyal and devoted to the people that they love. Their behavior more or less follows their heart. Like people can resist their hearts, but they can't resist it without doing some degree of violence to themselves. They're either going to resist until they can't, or they're going to have to anesthetize or remove that part of themselves. And that kind of surgery is going to come with other consequences for a person's emotional economy as well. Take care of the felt emotional connection, and the structure often takes care of itself, but generally not the other way around. What do you think? Does this fit with your own personal experience? Let me know in the comments below. And please send this episode to someone who you think might benefit from its message, as it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. And anyone looking to join my free weekly newsletter or to book a paid consultation can do so on my website. The links to everything are in the description below. Check them out. And as always, I appreciate your support and thank you for listening.